All right. So
grab your beverages and turn up your interweb. Solving the world's problems 12 ounces at a time. It's Dudes and Beer.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Dudes and Beer podcast, now officially brought to you by podcastcadet.com. If you're a podcaster like me trying to hit the next level, if you're somebody thinking about starting up a podcast for your church, school, business, whatever, feel free to give them a shout. Podcastcadet.com is the website. Tons of great services. Use the code DUDES20 on checkout to get 20% off of your entire purchase. While you're online, make sure to stop on and check out WMLD, our new sister station in the Hudson Valley. Can't wait. They're doing such great things up there. So glad to be a part of the community up there. Thank you so much for everyone for listening. So sorry for the late start this evening, everybody. I have been literally ping-ponging across the country on flights trying to make it here to Boston for a show. Just landed in my hotel room and contacted our guest for the evening, Richard Adams, founder and CEO of Breach.tv, will be joining us today to talk about basically what may amount to censorship going on right now. Google and YouTube have put forth in their new user service agreement that everybody who is a member of YouTube must sign, that your channel could be removed for absolutely no reason, whether they deem the content unfit, whether they deem the content unworthy, whether you have like 5 views or 5,000 views. If they think your stuff has taken up space, they're going to remove it. Add to that all the stuff going on right now with Twitter saying that they are banning political ads as we move into this political season. I think that this is really something that we need to talk about. So welcome to the show once again, as always. Richard Adams, how are you doing, my friend?
I am doing well, Chris. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Tell the audience where you are today, because we are like both in different parts of the country.
Indeed, we are. I am actually in Dallas tonight. We just got done doing a hardware deployment yesterday, putting a bunch of new storage online because we anticipate there's going to be some growth coming very soon for us. So, exciting times for us, indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been a proud member of Breach since almost the beginning. I mean, I've loved to see the community grow, the way that things are going, the monetization you guys have for creators like myself, for everyone on the network, and for everyone out there. Now, getting into this a little bit, Richard, you were actually the one that sent me the screenshot from YouTube that was like, hey, here's our new end user licensing agreement. Get into that a little bit for us and exactly what the implications for that mean, especially for creators, but also just for people in general.
Well, it's a very concerning update to their terms of service, just because they really have not issued any guidance on it after the fact. What constitutes a commercially viable account to them. So the update was very ambiguous in that it just says commercially viable. They don't define what that commercially viable such scenario could be for YouTube.
Yeah, they don't necessarily say it because, it was about a year and a half ago that they started the policy of, in order to be, or I guess a couple years ago now, where they started the policy of if you want to be monetized on YouTube, you have to have 10,000 followers or subscribers to your channel and 100,000 views on a video before it can be monetized.
Yeah, and they've altered that a little bit. They've reduced it down to 1,000 subscribers and 4,000. It's 4,000 hours of video time over the course of a year that has been the monetization plateau.
Okay, so 4,000 hours of total viewed video on your channel. will allow you to be monetized.
Right, as long as you have the 1,000 subscribers and the 400
the minimum.
Yeah.
And,
got tongue twisted there for a minute.
Well, and excuse me, folks. That's what I find interesting, though. Like, because I mean, they've kind of put forth a concept, I guess, by putting that up and saying this is when you're monetized, as to when something is commercially viable. But the troubling part for me is that they give no deadline on that.
Well, they did.
Which is
they did. It's next Wednesday. That terms of service agreement goes into effect December 10th. So
Sure.
a week from today, actually.
Well, and I guess what I mean is the fact that they don't say, like, okay, so you started your channel on the 11th of December. How long do you have to build that 1,000 followers to get that 4,000 hours of total view time on your channel? You know?
That's true. Yeah.
And that I think is what's troubling, because and be careful, folks. If you're a podcaster out there, if you're a band out there, if you're an artist, a creator, whatever, and you've got a YouTube channel, your head is basically on the block from the 10th on.
Well, and understand, it's not just the YouTube accounts. They stipulated that it's YouTube and Google accounts.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So there is potential for not even just creators, but people who, like myself, go out to YouTube and watch videos sometime.
Yeah.
If you've got an ad blocker or whatever turned on, they could terminate your account because you're no longer commercially viable to YouTube.
Wow. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that.
Say goodbye to your Gmail, your Google Sheets, all of that.
Or even if and what that also stops is people using it as a throwdown.
Yes.
You can't just have a Gmail account that you're giving out to, like, Stuckies and Subway, stuff like that for your discount cards.
Yes.
You're actively going to have to send and receive emails from it.
Yes.
Specifically the sending.
I believe that's going to be the case. Yeah. Now, how strict they get with it, who knows? Especially with today's announcement with Daniel Page and everybody else leaving.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen?
Well, and let's get into that for a second, because these are founders of Google.
Yeah,
these are people that have been in since the beginning.
They are the founders. They are the two founders of Google. They were the ones who started the project in their dorm room 25 years ago.
Wow.
And they're going to stay on as members of the board, but they are resigning their positions as CEO and president of Alphabet and Google.
It's interesting that comes about right as this happens, right as political season kicks in. I find it interesting that this comes about right as primaries and stuff like that start.
The timing is kind of suspect to an outsider, I would say.
Yeah,
these guys are stepping down.
Well, and we've seen a lot of this in the past. I know we had you on a year or so ago when the deplatforming of certain content started. Specifically, people like InfoWars, Alex Jones, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Since then, we have also seen the FBI put out memorandums saying that conspiracy theory is now a form of domestic terrorism. And what was interesting, though, was in between those two, when Google said that they were going to start combing through their data and start combing through their channels and videos and everything else and removing information that could not be fact-checked.
And yet we have that exact same thing playing on in the House of Representatives this very day.
Yeah.
Because that is all there is. There's no substance to this impeachment inquiry.
What?
So based on the FBI's memorandum, they're being domestic terrorists right now.
Yeah. Well, and I have posited...
Unpopular opinion, but That is
True.
what's going on.
Well, yeah, yeah, and you know me, I'm no trumper or trumpeter of Trump,
Exactly.
but
Neither
I,
am I. But
I am I'm a fan of a legal process. I'm a fan of following things properly, and since the get-go, all of this has been from all sides just obfuscated, even since the election originally.
yeah,
So it's to me an absolute means of control, a very definite means of control, especially when you're talking about Google being probably the through port for smooth two-thirds of the world's first internet experience. You know,
yeah, exactly.
that's what most people lean to. That's what most people go get. They go start up a Gmail address so they can watch YouTube, so they can be a member of certain platforms, stuff like that.
Yeah,
And for me to see this happening right at this time, and especially when they were saying we're going to team up with people and fact check stuff, uh, it's it's awfully strange to me. Why now? Because I remember when ads first started on YouTube, I had a very good friend of mine, Wavy Dave in Houston, an old drummer who loved watching pedal videos and was like, "Why am I getting all these ads in my videos now?" And I was like, "Well, they've got to make money at some point, Dave. This
yeah,
stuff takes server space, it takes energy, you can't just give it away forever." Um, but the fact that they've come out and said that if your content or your channel is not commercially viable, if what you're doing with our space is not commercially viable, we will have you leave. We will deprecate your accounts, and you will no longer have them. Um,
right.
which I don't know. I guess in one hand they are a privately held company. You know,
They're not.
Well,
They're a
I mean,
public
they're a
company.
publicly traded company, but at the same time, would they not have permission and legal allowance to do that with their own servers, with their own
Of course,
accounts that they generate?
of course they can. It's their internet. It's their intellectual property. They can do with it as they want.
Yeah,
That everybody needs to understand is that just because it's your account, it's their property,
that's right.
regardless of what you might think. They own it.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like the whole argument of Facebook owning your videos, your photos, things like that. It's stuff that
Yeah,
you've put on their server, so yeah, they
it's
have
stuff.
access to it. They can use it.
Yeah, exactly. They own it. If you put it there, they own it.
Yeah,
It
precisely.
would be no different than driving a car and leaving it. Somebody's going to take possession of that vehicle, and it's going to be theirs. That's what's going to happen.
Well, and what's odd for me is, they've Google has been caught up in so many issues over the years. They were caught grabbing IP addresses from people as they were driving around their Google Ostrich cars.
Yeah.
Sharing people's private data, all kinds of stuff. What
Well,
weird?
that's their moneymaker. People's data is what they make their money off of.
Yeah.
Off of.
Well, let's delve into that for just a minute because as we of course approach not only the political season but the holiday season as well, and people are purchasing online, things like that. Let's get into a little bit of the private data, what your data is, that kind of stuff. Because I think a lot of people have misconceptions, like we're saying, with the fact of, hey, wait a minute, that's my Gmail account. I even had a situation a few years ago where I'd built a website for somebody. It was registered in my name. The registration never got switched over. They didn't want it switched over. And I kept telling them, hey, come time, we're going to have to talk about something on the website. And then they ended up selling their business and selling the website as part of it without ever contacting me. And unfortunately, the case is that website is not part of your brick and mortar business. The website exists separately unless it's registered in your business's name. And that's what a lot of people fail to understand is that clear license of digital ownership. Where does as a platform creator, Richard, where does that line typically get drawn?
Well, it gets drawn with whoever develops and registers let's say a domain name or like all of the stuff that I have registered to my business name. So therefore, if I sell the business, all of the assets, those would be considered assets of the business.
Okay.
If you're posting content to another person's website, you no longer own that, and you will see everywhere on every social media site or anywhere that you post a blog or content like that terms of service says that when you post it, that company has the right to do whatever they want to with it.
Yeah.
Disseminate it however, send you advertisements based off of it, whatever they want to do. They own it. That's their data.
Yeah. Which is it's great to go out and start up a blog, a podcast, what have you, but be wary, folks, whenever you go and start up a free WordPress site. It's free for a reason, and it's free for the reasons that Richard is saying.
It's free for those exact reasons. They own that data. They can do whatever they like to with that data.
Yeah.
And most of the time, that data is being fed into an algorithm to generate advertisements because that's how they make their money. That's how I make my money.
Yeah, absolutely. Is ad placement online, and we say it so much on this show. If the digital product is free, you are the product.
Exactly.
You are actively the commodity that's being traded. Your opinions, your likes, dislikes, web visits, whatever.
Exactly. All of that is the product. You're exactly right.
Yeah, and that I think is really where the conversation begins with what's going on with Google right now, with what's gone on in the past, is understanding that digital licensing, understanding the fact that your opinion is your own if you put it on your own stuff. Once you put it on somebody else's stuff, it's bought and sold. Whether it's Facebook, what have you. These things are algorithm. They're used to sell advertisement. They're used to sell products and services to us through these platforms.
Exactly.
And when go ahead.
Think of it as the old Nielsen system for television.
Oh.
People who subscribed to the Nielsen system, they were tracked. They followed what they did, what they bought, and that data it's the same similar setup. I mean, that same data is still there.
Yeah, and I find it interesting that this election, Twitter has already come out and said that they are banning political ads. Now, specifically what that means, folks, that doesn't mean that you can't share something about a political candidate, things like that. But what you can't do, and that doesn't mean that a candidate can't go on and tweet something, can't have a call to action, what have you. But what that means specifically is that they will not allow the boosting of ads on behalf of politics. So that means you can't be boost this and get 10,000 people to view it. And
nor can you sponsor a post. None of that's allowed.
Yeah.
And I give Twitter credit for doing that because it keeps their platform politically neutral by doing that.
Well, I think
kudos to Twitter for pulling that off.
Yeah, and in my mind especially, it levels a lot of playing fields. I for years have specific since the term domestic terrorism has begun being used. Since that began, I I have been an advocate for the removal of all political ads. All of them. I want them out of print. I want them off TV. I don't want them on my cell phone.
Yeah.
And that's because most political ads use fear as a basis through which to exact a political end. That's the definition of terrorism.
That's the exact definition of terrorism.
So
if it were an Islamist that did that, would be putting them in jail for terrorism.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You're absolutely right.
And, for me, I think that would be a great leveler. It would bring things back very much to a grassroots system where you got to go out, knock on doors, leaflet, things like that.
Which is exactly what this country needs. It needs somebody to get into a grassroots campaign and build from there.
Yeah.
This business of just, hey, whoever spends the most money is going to win, that is a problem. That's a huge problem.
It's a big, big problem. Until we get to the point where we get rid of PACs, until we get to a point where we get rid of lobbying, and we start putting laws in place to regulate that kind of stuff, it's really one of the only ways I think that we're going to get to a point where all voices can be heard equally.
Start putting term limits on our legislators.
Hey, now that's crazy talk.
I know it is. But hey, there's a bill sitting on the Senate floor right now to introduce term limits for our legislators. So let's hope it gets somewhere.
Absolutely, and let's hope that they have a little common sense as they step into all this stuff right now, because the crazy thing is it's Ted Cruz and AOC who are sponsoring the bill, so it's got bipartisan support already. Wow. Two of the most unlikely people that would work together on the planet. Right? That is hilarious. It's such a didactic. But such a good thing to see the didactic working in favor and seeing them approaching it from literally polar opposites, going, we got to do something about this. Because, it really doesn't matter who the president is. He has very little power according to the Constitution, folks. Very little.
Unless you're Donald Trump.
He can throw some baller parties. He is allowed to throw whatever parties he wants and invite whoever he wants. That's pretty much it. Other than vetoing some bills, everything else has to be passed through Congress. So it's interesting the way that we focus on those things, and that the conversation is so easily steered in that way. And there has been a big call against big tech this time around to have a little accountability, to stop things like Cambridge Analytica happening again.
Which is going to happen again.
It's going to happen again. There's no doubt about it.
It's probably happening as we speak right now, truth be told.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty much a constant process, that. And to know that we have willingly put ourselves in this situation, how do you think that we can start backstepping some of this, Richard? I mean, not that I want to get rid of technology. You know me. You've been to my house. Hell, you build some of my technology.
I've built most of your technology.
You built most of my technology that's in my studio right now. So, I don't want to go back to the Stone Age, but man, we definitely got to do something. It is quite literally the Wild West out there, and we are the only country as of right now under NATO flag that does not have a definition of digital identity.
Yeah. And I think it starts with leveling the playing field politically, by just simply saying, no, we're not going to take that money for the political ads. And I think that's where it has to start. Then we can get down to the conversation of, okay, now we've leveled that playing field. Let's start talking about what a digital ID actually is. Yeah. And how it can be used.
Well,
the European Union has very strict rules on digital identities and what can and cannot be done with them.
Yeah.
The GDPR was passed 18 months ago, and the penalties for misusing a digital ID in the European Union are extraordinarily strict. They can put you out of business, kind of strict.
Yeah, absolutely. And just so you know, folks, on all your mobile devices, websites, all those little pop-ups that you see now that are like, hey, we use cookies, that are annoying you. I know it's annoying, but those are there because of these EU laws.
EU and now California has also enacted some very similar privacy laws in regards to digital identities. That just happened this past election, so they haven't gone into effect yet. But the voters of California did vote that in last month.
Good. There's some precedent being set locally then, because like I said, as of right now, it's just about Wild West. Like I could go out right now. Probably by the time we're done with this episode, have purchased a URL and installed a WordPress plugin for social media, what have you, and build a social media network, and start literally harvesting people's data.
Yep.
There was just who was it that just launched a new like Facebook type platform?
Oh, Wikipedia.
Yeah. And we'll
see.
Go ahead.
They have a lot of work to do. I was in one of the introductory 50,000 accounts, and they've got a lot of work to do over there still. But they are treating things a little differently over there in that they don't want to advertise. If you notice, Wikipedia's website has no advertisements on it whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it's all of their funding is through donations. It's the NPR of the internet, if you want to call it that. Yeah.
Well, yes and no. Like I fully grasp what you're saying there and the fact of its funding. I find it a little funky that you can just go in there and change some stuff on Wikipedia.
Yeah,
that you can just go.
That's kind of the concept around crowdsourced data, though.
Yeah,
and that's what Wikipedia is. It is a crowdsourced data platform. So that's exactly what they want. And now, yes, they will go in and fact check it.
Yeah.
If you make a change and somebody says, no, that's not quite exactly what's supposed to be there.
Yeah. And, there's a process involved with that, of course, just like making a claim on YouTube or anything like that. And it's funny to me, though, the way that all of these things have fed off of each other, because of course it was Wikipedia that YouTube was teaming up with to do the fact checking on their video platform and the videos that were out there. And for me, just the fact that all of these things have happened within the last couple years, where it really didn't seem like there was a whole lot of concern before. And suddenly there has been like a rage of concern that is built. I mean, all of a year and a half ago was when YouTube Kids started, and they were recommending conspiratorial videos to kids.
They got in a lot of trouble for that one.
Yeah.
They and that's the new thing. On top of all this other stuff, is they're getting hit with COPPA violations from the FTC. So, that's the next thing now, is they're having to really go through and age restrict a lot of their content. That, like this conversation that you and I are having right now, will likely get age restricted.
Yeah. And, mine's one of those that I've already got an age restriction on the channel to begin with.
Right.
Just to cover that. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, I remember whenever I first started porting things over to Breach.tv and started coming on board over there and distributing, was right as I started having issues on YouTube with my Talking Sound podcast, where entire episodes would be muted,
Yeah.
because I'm playing a musician's song. It happens to be I'm interviewing that musician on camera. Um, and I'm like, hey, let's listen to your song. And then we listen to it. So to say that I don't have permission to use it is a little funky. And that's how you can really tell that most everything over there is done via algorithm. There is very little human intervention when
Yeah.
it comes
Well,
to that
it
stuff.
it has to be because of the
Yeah.
volume that they do.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's just not enough human hours
No.
to sit there. I mean, you have to understand they get
Hundreds
1,000 hours
thou-
of video an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. It's insane,
So-
the mass volume that comes into them. Which I guess is part of the reason why, because I mean, you yourself know as a server maintenance technician and as the person who's built the platform Breach.tv, like it takes a lot of storage. It takes a metric amount of storage
Yeah.
and processing power and speed to do this stuff.
We're talking probably close to zettabytes for YouTube,
Yeah.
which is 1,000 petabytes, which is 1,000,000 terabytes.
Yeah.
So you're talking about
Yeah.
racks. We're talking
Which is
about
1,000
data-
gigabytes.
Yeah. We're talking about data centers of nothing but racks of hard drives. That's all it is.
Oddly enough, you're looking at pretty much a Googleplex of zeros, folks.
Yeah.
Not to get all meta on you, but literally, like there's 1,000 zeros there. That's a Googleplex. It's crazy.
It's astronomical amount of data.
Yeah. And when you consider the fact that that is all being searched, that's all being combed, a lot of it is being real-time analyzed as it comes in, is phenomenal.
Yes.
Amazing technology, but there's definitely a genie in the bottle there that we have to be careful for, that we have to try to keep in the bottle as much as possible. And that's what we're talking about, of course, folks, is the means of control. Trying to make sure that all voices are heard equally. Trying to make sure that there isn't a rising to the top of wrong messages, things like that. And it's hard. It's hard as a platform creator. Heck, man, it's hard as like a group monitor, even keeping things in check on the Dudes and Beer Facebook group sometimes can be a little tough, but
you just have to have very clear definitions of what you are and are not going to allow. I mean, that's the bottom line.
yeah,
And the problem is Alphabet and Google have failed miserably multiple times on clear definitions on their terms of service.
give some examples of that, Richard.
Well, we're looking at one right now with this account termination. They have not made any sort of specification as to what a commercially viable account is, as we spoke about earlier. Does that mean you have to have X amount of revenue per year to be commercially viable? What is that? And they have really dropped the ball on that one. Because I talk to creators every day, and they're worried. They're worried big time about what's going to happen next week.
What's their major concern right now, Richard?
Well, their concern is that they're monetized, but they're not making a lot of money. And come next week, are they going to have an account come next Thursday, or are they not? And you've got a lot of people that have invested years. We're talking about YouTube's been around since 2005. There's been people that have got 10 plus years invested into this is stuff that's just not retrievable.
Yeah.
And they could flip a switch next week and it could be gone.
Yeah. And
that's scary.
Indeed.
That is
Indeed it
downright.
is. I've been there. You've seen me when my website's gone down before and I've had to rebuild it from scratch. I can't imagine what that's like to lose all content. That's what honestly, like, I've got a whole episode that I did with the CEO of Blueberry on Talking Sound about owning your content, own your URL. If you're going to have a podcast, folks, don't just put it up on Anchor. What happens if Anchor goes belly up overnight? All your content's gone. Same situation here. Most people ask me,
have
like,
backup of your stuff always.
yeah. Well, and try to have the dissemination coming from your URL, coming from your website. Set up that clear digital ownership to begin with, and have it go out via RSS to everything else. And that's really the easiest way to start doing that if you are a content creator, is to put it on your website first. And if you do have, just so you know, folks, if you're listening to this, you probably have a computer, which means you have access to Firefox, which means you have access to YouTube Downloader. I do not advocate going and taking any content that is not your own. However, if you are a content creator and you are worried about this, start making backups of your videos. Even if it's going and taking a screenshot, like full screen it, take a screenshot video of it, and save that. Find some way to back up your material. Like Richard was saying, make sure that at some point you exported a video to upload it to YouTube. Many people actually just have Final Cut Pro upload it to YouTube on the export. But I always recommend to people, make sure to just export it. Just export it and then spend the extra 10 minutes of your life uploading it. You're gonna thank yourself later to have an actual hard copy of that file.
Absolutely.
And just looking at situations like this where platforms start deplatforming people, platforms start deciding what is best, and start deciding that, hey, 6 months into a project, you're not economically viable. That's kind of funny because, most businesses aren't economically viable until they're 3 to 5 years old to begin with.
Exactly. Take it from somebody who just wrote himself his first paycheck.
Hell yeah. Congratulations.
From my own company, yes.
Congratulations.
I can totally relate.
There is nothing like that feeling. I myself have hit that point with my business where it's like, things go on their own now. I don't necessarily have to be pushing the rock uphill all the time. And it's nice. Well,
we haven't been pushing the rock uphill, but it hasn't been a point where the rock is pushing anything back until the last couple of months. So.
Well, and let's spend the next little bit actually talking a little bit about Breach.tv. Now, what kind of content is allowed to be on Breach.tv, Richard, as we're talking about Google getting rid of channels that do not get enough traffic, are not economically viable? What is Breach.tv's policy on such things?
So our policy is really simple. Don't kill anybody in your videos. Don't try to kill somebody in your videos. Make sure you're clothed, and that's really about it. And that's pretty much how our ad partners see it is, you want to post a gun training video on our site, you can do that and we'll get it monetized. If you shoot somebody in that video, we're probably not going to allow it. If you threaten to shoot somebody, we're not going to allow it. In fact, we're probably going to call the authorities and have them come have a visit with you.
And good on you for doing so.
But our content policy is extremely relaxed. as you know, we've partnered up with ASCAP and BMI and Rumblefish so that if you're playing music in your video, we can still play it. You're going to take a monetization hit, but it's not a significant amount. It's about 13% of what you would get.
Which is what you should be paying those people anyway to use their content.
That's so that the original artist gets paid, which they should be doing.
That's right.
You got to make sure we keep those original artists happy.
Well,
if they're happy, we're happy because they leave us alone.
Well, and there was actually I'm not going to name names, but there was actually a gentleman that I was looking at. He was a former guest, had him as a guest on his show. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
And I went to go start looking at the guy's website and went to media. Let's just check it out. And he literally, and I hate using the word literally, but literally had like these 2 bolded paragraphs that were like, I will not work with amateurs. And then started to define what amateur was, started to name names.
Dang.
And was physically saying like, hey, you can't remove this content from your stuff, like without telling me that you're removing it. And what was funny was every link underneath that from every show he'd been on was YouTube. Every single link was from a YouTube channel. So he may be looking, and like he even said, like if you violate this, you have to pay me $500. So if I remove my own content that has you in it and don't tell you, I have to pay you money.
Well, he's going to find out that that's not going to fly because he doesn't own that content.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, it goes to what we said earlier. If you give me content, it's mine. I own it. Much like this interview right now, you own this interview. This is yours, and I'm giving you access. I'm granting you access to it.
That's very kind of you, Richard.
That's how this works.
Yeah. I just thought it was funny that every single link underneath it was a YouTube channel.
That's funny.
It's like, well, I hope those dudes are getting a whole lot of listens and views and are economically viable.
Well, if they're not, they're not.
Are you going to chase YouTube for that $500?
Yeah, good luck with all that. They'll spend $50,000 in lawyer fees just to make you look like an idiot.
Exactly.
Because Alphabet can do that.
Well, and as we close things up here, Richard, let's talk a little bit more about Breach, what you guys are working on right now, what we're looking at in the new year from you guys as things ramp up, like you were saying, with new servers, things like that.
Yep, we are testing out the new servers right now. They are deployed. As you saw some of the test data that I sent you, we're going to see a very significant increase in performance, which has been, and this is a complaint that many media sharing sites have when they first get started, is as you start to grow a little bit, you start running into performance issues just because disks can be slow.
Yeah.
So we took care of that problem. We built ourselves a nice 100 terabyte storage array that can saturate the 10 gigabit network that it's going to be plugged into, and that's going to be amazing.
Wow.
We're also getting ready to roll out a new player, which you saw the other night.
Yep. Looks great.
It looks great, and it works a lot better than the one we have out there right now. I've been in contact with the developers pretty much on a daily basis of the new player. Sam's a great guy. I'm looking forward to working with them and their company even more as we go forward. So I'm pretty excited about that. We are in the final phases of testing for the merchandise stuff, where if you're a creator on board with us, you can create your own T-shirts, coffee mugs, posters, whatever you want to create. And between us and our partners, we'll handle all of the fulfillment, much like Amazon does. If you want to do something with Amazon, we're kind of doing that for the guy who wants to sell one T-shirt every month, you know.
Direct drop ship merchandise.
Direct ship it. Somebody places the order with us, you get your commission, we send the order off, we make our little commission, everybody's happy.
Nice.
So we're actually sending test orders to them this week, so we'll see how they work out.
Well, fantastic, man. Exciting things on the horizon for you guys, for all of us creators out there who are part of Breach.tv and who will soon be part of Breach.tv. Like you said, you are expecting quite the influx of users once this new EULA goes through with YouTube on the 10th.
Well, and it's already kind of started. We've already started to see an uptick, as you've noticed.
Yeah.
If you've been visiting the site at all lately, you've noticed, and it's great. I'm excited.
Well, I'm always excited anytime that creators start getting excited. Whenever you see creators starting to move into a new area, that means new things are going to be coming out, new content, everything else. I am very, very excited for the future of Breach.tv and just this industry as a whole, podcasting and everything else. So
exactly, this industry is still, despite being 15 years old, it's still in its infancy.
15 years is nothing in media. That's what I've been trying to tell people at conferences I speak at. Is like I hear all these people talking like podcasting is old hat. I'm here to tell you, 15 years is just learning to walk as a media platform.
Exactly. And this step next week is going to be us getting up on our feet and taking first steps as a platform. And I think as a industry, it may get everybody up on their feet and teach them how to walk. Yeah,
absolutely.
Because now there's going to have to be competition. It's no longer just going to be YouTube and that's it.
Yeah. And it's funky because it's very much been almost a political playground with that stuff where, kind of like how people are with third-party candidates where it's like, oh, why would you waste your vote? Why would you go there for content? Why would you go put stuff there?
Well, now
you know why.
You're going to have to.
Now you know why, folks.
And all I can say is thank you, Google.
That's right.
Thank you, Google. Thank you very much. You have just made the next 2 years of my life very fun.
That's right.
It's going to be very challenging because if this thing grows like we're expecting, I'm going to be very busy.
Yeah, and I'm excited for your busy. Like I said, I am excited for everywhere that this digital content creation market is going right now. It is absolutely amazing. So, Richard, one last time, tell everybody where they can go to check out Breach.tv, to become a member, everything else before we let you go.
All right, awesome. Yeah, it's www.breach.tv. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter under the same Breach.tv login names.
All right, great. Well, Richard, please do hold the line as we close out. While you're online checking out all the great work of Breach.tv and Richard Adams, founder and CEO, make sure to stop on by the HC Universal Network. That's where you can find not only Dudes and Beer and Talking Sound, but other great stuff like Yes But Why podcast, Scary Dad, soon to be rebooting Therapy Hour with Rusty Lozano. Very excited about that. And while you're online checking that out, make sure to stop on by dudesandbeer.com. That's where you can find all the episodes. That is where you can find the Knowledge Vault. That's where you can find everything. Check us out on Facebook. Like us. Go to your favorite platform. Give us some reviews, folks. Until next time, everybody, make sure to take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and remember, if you can't be good at it. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Dudes and Beer Podcast. To listen to our audio streams or chat with us live, download the official Dudes and Beer app for Android and iDevices, available on Google Play and iTunes markets. For more episodes, content, and information, visit us online at dudesandbeer.com. You can also find our episodes on Breach.tv, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast service. Dudes and Beer is a proud member of the HC Universal Network family of podcasts. For more about our sponsors and other podcasts on this network, visit hcuniversalnetwork.com. Thanks for listening, everybody, and until next time, drink responsibly.